Hello, everyone. Today I'm telling the story of how I met my now husband. If you've seen some of my other videos, you might know that we were in a long distance relationship. So a lot of people ask how I met him all the way in Ohio from New York State. To make the telling of it a little bit easier, I have made some charts. But first, a bit of background on that. My sister was living in Virginia at the time, and I went to go visit her for a bit. And then while there, she told me that we were going to go to Ohio to go to the ordination of a friend, so he was getting ordained as a pastor. Here's my chart to tell who he is. There's me. There's the pastor of my church. His daughter lived in Ohio, and her husband was getting ordained as a pastor. It's not that complicated when you see it, but every time I'm telling it, I feel like I'm being confusing about it. Well, I was 17 at the time, and I wasn't looking for love because I had finally gotten over all the crushes I had in my life, some of which were more painful than others. And I was just like, okay, now it's time to stop looking and not let my heart get carried away again. So I have trouble sleeping in new places. When I get sleep, it's not very good sleep. So the whole time I was staying at my sister's, I was kind of getting bad sleep. And I have a hard time sleeping in the car too. Sometimes I can do it if I'm desperate enough. But at the time, I couldn't ever. So for a few days at least leading up to the trip to Ohio from Virginia, I wasn't sleeping well. And the night before we left, it was the worst. I didn't fall asleep till like 3, 4 in the morning, and then I got up at 7. So, and because I couldn't sleep during the ride, I just like, my tired brain made me talk the ear of the driver off, who I didn't know very well, but I just talked about all kinds of things. And later, after I got sleep, I was like, man, that's so embarrassing. Why did I do that? But that happens to me a lot. So, after we got there, the first night, I did not go to bed. I didn't sleep at all. I was building up low sleep. And for me, a person who likes to get a good 10 to 12 hours a night, and I liked to get 12 hours every night back then. I know, but the thing about Einstein needing 12 hours a night to function, I don't consider myself less of a person for liking my sleep. And since I have become a mother, that's out the window. But I digress. I was basically a zombie who, instead of eating people, likes to talk their ears off and say things that I don't remember entirely, but were pretty weird when people tell me about them. And some of the things I do remember were like, I'd like to blame the low sleep, please. Okay, so the next day, after having 0 sleep, we went to church. Somehow I was able to stay awake through the service, which for me has been a struggle on normal days. And that was just, I guess it was just the excitement of being in a new place keeping me going for that whole time. And after the service, I was walking out of the sanctuary, and I saw my now husband, obviously, walk by from the side, and I was just like frozen. I stopped moving and just stared as he walked by and was like, I just knew in that moment that it was meant to be. I like tried to slow myself down after that, but at that moment I was just like, He's gorgeous. So I also made a chart to show who he is in relation to everybody. There's my pastor, his daughter. His daughter's best friend is Elijah's mom, my husband's mom. So that's them. Oh, and he had sideburns at the time, which I absolutely adored. Now he's got a full beard, but I had to do sideburns for sentimental reasons. Anyway, I stared at him a lot, but I was trying to be subtle. Also, having very low sleep, I was not subtle. And I wanted to talk to him because I was just like, he must enter my life somehow. I will insert myself into his life. So I went over and sat at the table where his family had been sitting, but it was like at the end of the lunch after service. So his younger siblings were there and his mother, and they were just like, hi you. How's it going? And I was like, I'm going to sit here and talk to you until he comes back. He didn't come back. He was taking care of chairs, and he never sat back down. And then they had to take care of the chairs that we were sitting on, and we had to leave. And I was like, my plan has been foiled. Well, that night there was a youth group thing, I want to say. So we went to that, and I saw him again. He was standing in a group of other youth, and I went over to insert myself into that relationship so I could just be in his life because I'm awkward. And as soon as I got there, he stopped talking. I didn't hear his voice. I had no idea what he was saying, and everybody just stood there silently for a second until somebody else started talking, and I was like, I'm just gonna go now. So that was the last I saw of him that trip. But I kept thinking about him. And I think it was that night, but it could have been another night during the trip. We weren't there for that many days, so I think it was that night. Back at my pastor's daughter's son's house, Elijah's brother was his roommate. So I decided that I was going to try to stare at the brother as a reference so I could draw Elijah, because that's the level of creepy I was. And he noticed me staring at him, and he was like, he told me, you're really creeping me out. And I was like, if I stare at him some more, maybe he'll ask me why, and I can tell him that I'm trying to draw his brother because I'm in love with his brother. He didn't ask me. And I still cringe when I think about these things. Yeah. Anyway, I creeped out both of the brothers that I met on that trip, I'm pretty sure. And I didn't talk to him at all until I got back home. Got some sleep, actual sleep. I want to say I even had a dream about Elijah pretty quickly. I had crazy dreams a lot, and I didn't write them all down, but I definitely had variations of him in my dreams early on. Sometimes he was mixed with other people. Dreams are weird, but that's not the point. The point is, after I had some sleep, I was still thinking about him. I searched him on Facebook, but I didn't know his last name, so I just creeped on the people that I did know of, and then found him in the friend lists because desperate times call for desperate measures. And I sent him a friend request, and he accepted immediately. And I was like, it's meant to be. Because that's how you determine what's meant to be, alright? But I was right, so that's the moral of the story. I didn't talk to him that day because by that time I was properly self-conscious, having had enough sleep in my brain. But the next day, or I think it was the next day, it might have been a couple days, but I saw he had posted on Facebook about long car rides plus Netflix equals lots of Doctor Who. And I was like, there it is. The definitive proof. He is also a Whovian. And I immediately messaged him hi, because by then I had at least a conversation starter. So I said hi. He said hi. And I said, I didn't know you were a Whovian. And that is the story of how we met and how we started talking as a bonus. We were both very shy, so talking through text was the best way of communicating for the first few months. And I didn't even hear his voice for the first few months. And it was like one of those things I was looking forward to. So, and when I said we were both really shy, I mean when I have enough sleep, I was really shy. And now you know the whole embarrassing and amazing and beautiful story. I hope you enjoyed, and subscribe for more random stories of my life and songs mostly inspired by my life. And feel free to comment any response you have to this. I love to hear from you. Have a great day.